Welcome back to a brand new video on Neurophilus. You're about to experience a powerful story, one that pulls you in, keeps you thinking, and stays with you long after it ends. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're exactly where you should be. Before we begin, hit the like button, subscribe for more thought-provoking stories, and tell us in the comments, which country are you watching from? Let's begin. The lie of total collapse. You don't feel broken in one place. You feel broken everywhere. Your sleep is off. Not just a bad night here and there, but a pattern. You go to bed tired and wake up exhausted. Your energy feels drained before the day even begins. Your routines, once stable, once familiar, have dissolved into something unrecognizable. Tasks pile up. Focus slips. Motivation feels distant, like something you used to know but can't access anymore. Your relationships feel thinner. Conversations are shorter. You respond later than you used to, not because you don't care, but because everything takes more effort now. Even the space around you feels different. Your room, your desk, your surroundings. They no longer support you. They press in on you. They remind you of what hasn't been done. You feel overwhelmed, foggy, stuck. And slowly, almost without noticing, a belief forms in your mind, a heavy one. This is too much to fix. You tell yourself that what you're facing would require months, maybe years of work, that you'd need a complete overhaul, a new body, a new mindset, a new lifestyle, a new version of yourself who wakes up early, eats perfectly, thinks clearly, never procrastinates, and somehow holds everything together. You imagine the work it would take, and you shut down. That belief is the real problem. And it's a lie. Not because change is easy, but because you've misunderstood the nature of what's happening. You think your life has collapsed into chaos. In reality, it's become misaligned. You don't have dozens of separate problems. You have one system that's fallen out of balance. Your life is not a collection of independent failures. It's an interconnected structure. When one part starts to strain, it pulls on the others. When sleep breaks down, energy drops. When energy drops, effort feels heavier. When effort feels heavier, things get delayed. When things pile up, self-trust erodes. When self-trust erodes, stress rises. And stress quietly destroys sleep. The system feeds on itself. This is why everything feels wrong at once. Not because everything is wrong, but because the feedback loops are running in the wrong direction. The mistake most people make at this point is trying to fix everything at the surface level. They attack the visible problems. Productivity, discipline, motivation, diet, routines. They try to force change where it's most obvious. And when it doesn't stick, they blame themselves. But systems don't change through force. They change through leverage. You don't fix a collapsing structure by rebuilding every wall at the same time. You stabilize the load-bearing point first. One strategic shift alters the entire balance. The idea that you need a massive transformation is comforting in a strange way. It gives you a reason not to start. It turns change into something dramatic and distant instead of something practical and immediate. But real change rarely arrives as a revolution. It arrives as momentum, small, precise actions that reduce friction instead of increasing pressure. Adjustments that don't demand willpower, motivation, or belief, only consistency. The truth is, you don't need to become a new person. You need to help the person you already are function again. This isn't about fixing your entire life. It's about choosing the right starting point. Because once the system begins to move, even slightly, something important happens. You stop feeling trapped. You stop feeling frozen. You stop feeling like everything depends on one impossible leap. You realize you don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right thing first. And once that happens, the downward spiral doesn't just slow, it reverses. That's where this begins. Momentum is physics, not motivation. Once you understand that your life is a system, something subtle but important shifts. The problem stops feeling personal. It's no longer about you being lazy, undisciplined, or broken. It becomes mechanical, directional, a matter of momentum. Most people believe change begins with motivation. They wait to feel ready. They wait for clarity, confidence, or inspiration to arrive before they act. But motivation is unreliable. It spikes briefly, then disappears the moment resistance shows up. That's why so many attempts at change burn out within days. Momentum works differently. Momentum doesn't care how you feel. It responds to movement, even minimal movement. Think of your life like a wheel that's been still for too long. The first push is the hardest. Not because it requires strength, but because there's no energy stored in the system yet. Once the wheel starts turning, however slowly, each push becomes easier. The system begins to assist you instead of resisting you. This is where most people get it wrong. They try to generate momentum by doing everything at once. They wake up early, overhaul their diet, start exercising intensely, reorganize their schedule, and expect the system to cooperate. But a stalled system pushed too hard snaps back. Exhaustion follows. Self-blame sets in. The wheel stops again. True momentum is created by reducing friction, not increasing effort. Your life already runs on feedback loops. When sleep is poor, energy drops. When energy drops, tasks feel heavier. When tasks are avoided, guilt builds. When guilt builds, stress rises. And stress quietly destroys sleep. Each loop feeds the next, but feedback loops don't care about intention. They only care about inputs. Change one input, and the entire loop begins to shift. Improve sleep slightly, and energy rises. With more energy, movement feels possible. With movement, mood lifts. With better mood, decisions improve. With better decisions, self-respect returns. With self-respect, stress loosens its grip. And when stress decreases, sleep improves again. That's not optimism, that's mechanics. This is why small changes matter more than dramatic ones. A tiny shift, applied consistently, compounds. It doesn't overwhelm the system, it stabilizes it. Behavioral psychologist B.J. Fogg describes this as designing behavior that is too small to fail. Actions so simple they bypass resistance entirely. No reliance on discipline, no dependence on mood, just repetition. This approach feels almost insulting at first. You want something bigger, something meaningful, something that proves you're serious about change. But seriousness is often the enemy of progress. It turns simple actions into heavy obligations, and heavy obligations trigger avoidance. Momentum thrives on success, not struggle. Each small win sends a signal to the brain. This worked. That signal releases dopamine, not the frantic spike of motivation, but the steady reinforcement of competence. You begin to trust yourself again, not because you promised something, but because you followed through. That trust is fragile at first. That's why the actions must remain small. Too much pressure breaks the loop before it can reverse. This isn't about lowering standards. It's about choosing leverage over force. The goal of this process is not transformation. It's direction. You don't need to feel amazing. You don't need to be disciplined. You don't need to believe in yourself. You just need the system to start helping you instead of fighting you. Once momentum exists, effort feels different. You stop dragging yourself forward. You start being pulled. That's the shift this chapter is about. Not inspiration, not willpower, but movement that creates its own energy. And now that you understand how momentum actually works, the next step becomes obvious. You don't attack everything. You stabilize the master variable first, because once that moves, everything else follows. Repair the engine. If your life feels heavy, scattered, and fragile, there's a reason. You're trying to move forward with a system that's running on fumes. And no matter how strong your intentions are, a broken engine won't carry you anywhere. The engine of your life is sleep. Not mindset, not productivity, not discipline. Sleep. When sleep breaks down, everything else follows. Your emotions become volatile. Your thoughts lose clarity. Your patience thins. Your cravings intensify. You begin reacting instead of choosing. You can want change deeply and still be unable to act on it because your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. This is why so many attempts at self-improvement fail. People try to fix their behavior while ignoring the state of the system producing that behavior. They push harder, plan more, consume advice, and blame themselves when nothing sticks. But exhaustion isn't a moral failure. It's a biological state, and biology responds to signals, not pressure. Most people try to fix sleep the same way they try to fix everything else, all at once. They impose rules: no screens, no caffeine, perfect routines, supplements, trackers, optimized darkness, breathing techniques, meditation apps. They turn sleep into a project, and the moment it doesn't work, frustration sets in. Stress rises. Sleep gets worse. The solution is not more control, it's consistency. One fixed bedtime. Every night. Not because it guarantees perfect sleep, but because it gives your nervous system a reliable signal. 10 minutes before that time, you perform a simple shutdown ritual. Screens off, lights dimmed, teeth brushed, clothes changed. The details don't matter. The repetition does. You're not trying to sleep better. You're teaching your body when to power down. When that signal repeats, your circadian rhythm begins to recalibrate on its own. You fall asleep a little faster. You wake with slightly more clarity, not dramatically, not instantly, just enough to change the tone of the day. That small gain matters, because with a little more energy, something else becomes possible. Movement. When life stalls, the body freezes. You sit longer, you move less. Your world shrinks to a chair, a screen, a tight chest. You tell yourself you're too tired to move, but the truth runs in the opposite direction. You're tired because you're not moving. Movement is not about fitness. It's about reactivating systems that have gone quiet. 2 minutes is enough, not a workout, not a routine, just motion, stretch, walk, shake your arms, dance to one song. Anything that tells your nervous system, we are alive, we are not stuck. That message alone begins to dissolve fatigue that sleep alone can't touch. Blood flow increases. Neurochemicals re-enter circulation. Presence returns to the body. And once the body wakes up, nourishment starts to matter again. Most people don't eat poorly because they lack knowledge. They eat poorly because they're depleted. When energy is low, the brain reaches for what's fast, engineered, and numbing. Ultra-processed food becomes a form of sedation. So the goal isn't a diet, it's a reset. For one day, eat only real food. Food that looks like food. Food with a short history. Not because you're trying to change your body, but because you're trying to stabilize it. When the body stops being bombarded with artificial inputs, inflammation drops. Blood sugar steadies, hunger normalizes, and clarity begins to return. None of this is about perfection. It's about sending signals. Signals that say, I'm taking care of the engine now. And when the engine begins to hum again, even quietly, the system responds. Tasks feel lighter. Decisions feel possible. The weight lifts just enough for you to stand. This chapter isn't about discipline. It's about repair. Because once the engine is stable, you can finally move forward without grinding yourself into the ground. And that's when the real shift begins. Shape the space. Steady the mind. By now, something has shifted. Not dramatically, not in a way that would impress anyone else. But you can feel it. A little more energy, a little more presence, a sense that the system is no longer collapsing inward. And yet, there's still resistance. You notice it when you sit down to work, when you enter your room, when your eyes land on the same pile of clutter you've been avoiding. That low-level tension in your chest isn't coming from nowhere. It's coming from your environment. Your space is not neutral. Every object around you is either asking something of your brain or giving something back. When your environment is chaotic, your nervous system never fully stands down. It stays alert, scanning for unresolved signals. That state drains energy even when you're doing nothing. This is why you can feel tired in a messy room without having done any work. Your brain is processing decisions constantly. Move this, ignore that, deal with it later. Each unfinished object becomes a micro-demand. One demand means nothing. 100 of them create cognitive overload. Most people underestimate this. They think exhaustion comes only from work or emotional stress. But visual noise is stress. Unresolved space is stress. And when you're already low on energy, it quietly pushes you back into shutdown. This is why improving your environment is not cosmetic. It's neurological. But again, the instinct is to do too much, to reorganize everything, to declutter your entire home, to turn cleaning into a weekend project that never actually finishes. That approach fails for the same reason the others did. It overwhelms the system. So today you don't fix your space. You choose one surface, just one. A desk, a nightstand, a counter, a shelf. It doesn't matter which, as long as it's something you see every day. You clear it completely, not halfway, not good enough, completely. Remove everything. Wipe it down, then return only what belongs there intentionally, or leave it empty. That single surface becomes something rare in your life, resolved. When your eyes land on it, there's no tension, no decision, no demand. It simply exists, calm, quiet, finished. And something surprising happens when you experience that. Your body relaxes, not because the space is perfect, but because it's done. Your nervous system registers closure. A loop has been completed. This is more powerful than it sounds. Completion is safety. When you live surrounded by open loops, your brain never rests. It's always waiting, always bracing. One clear surface gives it proof that order is possible, that you are capable of resolving things. That belief matters. You'll find yourself protecting that space. You'll hesitate before dropping clutter back onto it. You'll want another area to feel the same way. Not out of discipline, but out of relief. This is how change spreads when it's aligned with the nervous system. Desire replaces force. Your environment shapes your behavior, whether you notice it or not. A chaotic space encourages avoidance. A clear space invites engagement. When your surroundings stop draining you, you have more capacity for everything else. And there's another layer to this. A clean surface becomes a mirror. It reflects a version of you who follows through, who finishes what they start, who can create order without collapsing under it. That reflection rebuilds self-trust, not in grand declarations, in quiet evidence. This chapter isn't about becoming organized. It's about giving your mind room to breathe. Because when external noise decreases, internal awareness increases. Thoughts slow, emotions settle. You start noticing what you actually feel instead of reacting to everything at once. You're creating space not just around you, but inside you. And that space is necessary, because next you move into territory that's been neglected even longer than your environment. Human connection, the kind that restores you instead of draining you. And when that returns, the system strengthens in ways you can't achieve alone. Learning to carry the weight. By the time you reach this point, one truth is impossible to ignore. Suffering was never a mistake. It was never proof that you failed the system. It is the system. Life did not break you by accident. It pressed on you the way gravity presses on everything that exists. The mistake was believing that the weight could be eliminated. Modern culture sells relief as the ultimate goal. Fix your mindset, fix your habits, fix your body, fix your career. And if the pain remains, something must still be wrong with you. But the problem was never that suffering stayed. The problem was that no one taught us how to carry it. Every meaningful life involves burden. Responsibility hurts. Love hurts. Caring hurts. Even growth hurts. The question isn't how to escape discomfort. It's how to choose a weight that makes sense to carry. Think of the difference between lifting a heavy object you chose and being crushed by one that fell on you. The weight might be similar, but the experience is completely different. One builds strength, the other creates injury. Meaning doesn't remove pain, it gives pain a direction. This is why people can endure extraordinary hardship when it's connected to something they value. A parent running on no sleep, an artist working through rejection, a worker pushing through exhaustion to support a family. The suffering doesn't disappear, but it transforms. It stops feeling pointless. What breaks people is not pain itself, it's aimless pain. So the task becomes clear. Stop asking how to feel good all the time. Start asking what kind of struggle you're willing to stand behind. This doesn't require grand purpose or dramatic reinvention. Meaning is often built quietly, through small commitments honored daily, showing up when it would be easier not to, telling the truth even when it costs something, doing work that matters to someone even if no one applauds it. These choices don't erase suffering, they organize it. There's also a deeper shift that happens when you stop treating discomfort as an enemy. You begin to notice that pain is information, fatigue signals limits, anxiety points to values under threat, sadness marks attachment. None of these emotions are defects. They're signals that you're alive and invested. The goal isn't numbness, it's clarity. And clarity allows acceptance. Not the passive kind, but the grounded kind. Acceptance that life will always include loss. That effort will not always be rewarded. That control is partial at best. This acceptance doesn't make you weaker. It stops you from wasting energy fighting reality. Strangely, this is where relief appears. Not as pleasure, but as steadiness. You stop chasing the version of yourself who never struggles. You stop comparing your internal chaos to everyone else's edited calm. You stop waiting for life to finally start after the pain ends. Because you realize this is life, not the absence of weight, but the way you stand under it. And once you stop running from suffering, something unexpected happens. You gain room to play again, to laugh without needing permission, to rest without guilt, to enjoy moments without asking if they're productive. Play isn't childish. It's a sign that your nervous system finally feels safe enough to loosen its grip. Not because the world became gentle, but because you became stronger. The promise of happiness was always misleading. A better promise exists, a life that is honest, meaningful, and sturdy enough to hold both joy and pain at the same time. You don't escape the weight. You learn how to carry it. And in doing so, you become someone who can walk forward anyway.